Hello and welcome to Full Throttle. Now today we are going to talk about track day cars. For you see, these are the cars that are meant to be taken around the track to set a fast lap time. The idea is you hop in them and pay a couple of quid to go around the test track to find out how fast you can go in your car. And none of them are as good, actually, and there hasn't been a good and the definitive one that everyone seems to say is this. This is the Caterham R500 Superlight. Now this, I will admit that the looks haven't really been revolutionary, but to find out why this has been the definitive track day car, I took it to Canada to find out. Hello, you join me here in Maplewood, Canada, where I am driving the Caterham R500 Superlight, the definitive track day car. Now let's just get this out of the way. It is a fast car. It may have a small engine, an incline V4 engine, but it may only have about 259 brake horsepower in this thing, but the power to rate ratio is even more insane. 563 brake horsepower per ton. And I don't know about you, but if you know your cars, you know full well that that is more brake horsepower per ton than a Bugatti Veyron, one of the old fastest cars on the planet. And in a car like this, which doesn't weigh quite a lot, you will know that can be pretty chaotic. The power to this is driven through a 6-speed manual gearbox, and it does wonders. The steering on this, actually, first off, the steering, look at this. Hold on, wait. On a normal track day, and most track day cars, a track day car like a KTM Crossbow, you wouldn't be able to do this. This may be the reason that you can do that. The Caterham is 4-wheel drive and has sticky tires. This is front-engined and rear-wheel drive, and the tires are, I wouldn't say sticky, but still, you can do this round a track. Whoa. I like this car. This car is fun. It's fun to whiz about in, and the fact that you could, and it's a fun and manageable car to do, despite it being light and having a lot of brake horsepower per ton and all that sort of stuff. The Caterham is manageable. I am handling this quite well, and it's actually not that badly priced. This is on sale to you for £42,000, which makes this a good bargain. There are only, as far as I see it, a couple of problems. First off, I'm not a particular fan of the looks of it that much. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not horrendous or anything, it's just a bit, I don't know, it's a bit too basic, too bland, too boring. And the second thing is, it's not that, and the second thing, it has no windscreen. which I know it's a track day car, it's supposed to not have windscreens, but you have about, if you look in here, you have about like 3 mirrors. It's not that lavishly well equipped either. But then again, it's a track day car, you don't want anything distracting you. Apart from that, this is a good car. Overall, this is a good track day car. But question is, how does it compete with its rivals? Now let's bring one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get out of the Atom and climb into one of its rivals. This bonkers looking car is one of the Caterham's rivals. This is the Ariel Atom. This is the nearest Ariel Atom. Now, what sets this apart from the old Ariel Atom? Well, 2 things. One, actually no, 3 things. 1, the gold chassis. 2, the body kits, like for example the front splitter there, and the rear wing. And thirdly, the engine. The old Ariel Atom had an incline 4 engine, about one of the same engines as the Caterham that we just tested earlier. This though has a 3-liter V8, and the old Ariel Atom was fast because it was a very light car with like a simplistic engine. This is a very, very light car, and it has a big V8 engine shoved up inside it, which means that the speeds are ridiculous. Let me just give you the facts and figures. 0 to 60, 2.8 seconds. The top speed may only be about like 150 odd miles an hour, 175 miles an hour, which is faster than the Ariel Atom. The Atom, actually not the Atom, sorry, the Caterham. The Caterham also had about like 500 brake horsepower per ton, which was ballistic, which was actually quite mental. This, you would expect this to have a little bit more, 550, maybe 600 brake horsepower per ton. But you'd be wrong, very, very wrong, because this has the engine in this develops 863 brake horsepower per ton. So, because of this car being so light, it develops more it helps it develop more power than a Pagani Huayra. In a car like this, it's insane. And as usual, the steering. What? Okay, the steering. Okay, there's a couple of problems with this car. First off, it may look better, but steering, the handling is not as easy. Whereas the Caterham's handling is easy, this is not. Look, I'm having to be fully. I have to work really hard here to keep the Atom V8 under control. And if you're not too careful, you'll slip out and what? You'll nearly spin. You'll do what I just did there now. You'll end up on the grass. The second thing is the price. I mean, it's more than the Caterham. It's actually more than its predecessor as well. The old Ariel Atom costed £50,000. The Caterham was about £43,000. Actually, or 45 odd thousand pounds, or whatever. This £125,000. Now, I'm sorry, but that's a bit too much for one of these cars. And it's not what you'd call lavishly equipped. I mean, yes, you do get a windscreen, But look at it. Look at that. It's pitiful. The windscreen is pitiful. And it's not that good a track day. Well, it's built to be a track day racer. But, yeah. It's not even. I've spun. That's what I was gonna say. The steering's not that good. You know what? If I want a car to be as good as Caterham, all I need is a car that looks good. Whoa. That can actually handle corners better than this, and that's about as fast as this. Oh God, if only there was a savior for me. Well, thankfully, there is such a thing. This is the newest track day car to be released, the BAC Mono. And let's just get this out of the way. Look at it. Just look at it. I honestly think that this car, there is no angle that I can see that makes the car look hideous. And even in this color, the white, it looks so beautiful. I mean, same goes for the interior as well. I mean, look at it. Look at the steering wheel. The steering wheel is reminiscent of a Formula 1 car, like with all the technological gizmos and all that. I'm in the middle, and the inside, like, and the seats and all, are lined up with a special. Now I can see why that when you get down to the speed of this thing, you can sort of understand why BAC actually put in material that's resistant to trouser accidents. Because in this car, the way this thing goes around corners at such high speeds, you will have a huge trouser accident. And the reason why for all this phenomenalness, that body is built for pure science. So that means that the car can go into a corner at such high speeds, and even if you do kick it out like that, it's still easy to control. And despite that, you would think that because it looks like you'd think that because you saw the Atom that it would be slower, but not. Well, it may not produce more power than the Atom. It may not be faster than the Atom, but the acceleration is the same. 0 to 60 is about 2.8 seconds. The top speed of this thing is 170 miles an hour, which is not that bad. It's faster than the Caterham. It's faster than the Caterham that we tested, and has more brake horsepower per ton, but not by much. And all this in a car that weighs about 580 kilograms. That's amazing. I quite like this car. I mean, the steering is a joy. It's actually not as hard as the. It's not as hard as the Atom to steer, thankfully, and it's not as aggressive, and it's not as soft as the Caterham. So basically, it's the best of both worlds for this thing. Price, I mean, the Caterham that we first tested was £38,000. The Ariel Atom, £120,000. This is £80,000. So this is more expensive than the Caterham, but at the same time, it's cheaper than a Ariel Atom. And you know what? I'm dawdling. You want to see these cars do a lap, I want to see these cars do a lap, so I'm gonna do the final verdicts now. The Caterham, I give that a 6 out of 10. I'd say that's slightly above average. Actually, no, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good car. The Ariel Atom, it may be faster, but I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. It's not as good as the Caterham. It's actually more expensive than the Caterham. It doesn't look better than the Caterham, and the handling is a nightmare. And this, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. It is a great car. I quite like this. I actually prefer this better than the old ones. So a top tip, if you want a car, if you want a track day car, pick this, the BAC Mono. Alright, now that's the scores out of the way. With that out of the way, let's now take these cars to the test track at Brands Hatch and give them to our test driver and see which one's the fastest.